Arsenal with an extra man need this. Ozil clips it in. Welbeck!
Hello and welcome back to Joy Eats Football, where we talk about all things football when it comes to Arsenal. My name is Joy and you can find me on Twitter at 022wenger. And due to last week's result, Pratik has left this concrete jungle and went to Himalayas to know the real meaning of life. Whether he finds it out or not, mostly he will be back by next Tuesday. Wait, I'm getting a call from him. Do they have Wi-Fi over there? Hey Pratik, how's the weather there?
I'm still at home and you can find me on Twitter at BVB_packs.
Oh, smooth, real smooth. Never mind, maybe I was just streaming then. Whatever it was, we don't have time to discuss that as I would like to talk to you about podcast first. So before starting this episode, I wanted to tell you guys about what this podcast thing is. Let me start where this is coming from. So I was talking with some of my friends who were providing me some feedback about the show, and during those conversations, I understood that our newly introduced demographic have less to no knowledge about what podcasts are. Is it like the content you see in a YouTube video or something that needs to be engaged every single second of it? The simple answer is no. Consider this as a background activity or call it a conversation. Simply, it serves as a secondary activity. You can say it's an on-demand radio show about Arsenal and stuff related to Arsenal, where we share a conversation, and as we gain viewers, we'll engage with them in a Q&A in relations with Arsenal. So, generally people use podcasts as secondary activities that requires minimal engagement while they focus on their primary activities. Now, you may ask, when and where can I consume this podcast? So, first of all, it's on demand, so whenever you feel like it, you can listen to it. And we are available on SoundCloud, YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcast, and all your favorite podcast app. Now the other part of the where. So I, like the 2/3 of the podcast listeners, listen to it while driving, be it in a car or a bike, even when in public transportation like bus, train, or planes. Other than that, I, like the most people, listen to it at home while cleaning, relaxing. Even while taking a shower, I put my podcast on speaker, or while cooking, or even before going to sleep. I use the Google Podcast app, which like most podcast apps have a sleep timer in it. This really helps me not to cry myself to sleep every night. I'm just kidding. Or am I? No, I'm just kidding. I can keep doing this, but we don't have time for that, so let's talk about Arsenal. Alright, so how do we even start this show? After the abysmal shit show on Thursday night, which some people might call football match, we saw our beloved Arsenal team lose to a Belarusian side who scored the only goal in the game. And I must add, they have been on a 2-month winter break before this. This was their first game back, and not only did they beat us, they even managed to keep a clean sheet. Amazing. I mean,
Funny thing is, there was also a former Arsenal player playing in that team.
Yes. We are talking about Alex Lib, who left us for Barcelona back in 2008, or it was 7, I don't remember. Who cares? Let's move on. Okay, so I have to tell you that we were as bad as the BATE pitch, if not worse. Now, we don't want to get into the ranting thing. Arsenal Fan TV have already sorted out that for you. We are trying to take the positives out of the game, and I have to tell you that the scoreline could have been 2-1 for us only if not Mkhitaryan and Lacazette hadn't missed their chances in front of the goal. 10 minutes into the game, it was looking like we had things under control, but as the pitch got patchy and worse, so did our performance. I mean, I couldn't figure out anything new why we weren't able to break them down. It was the same thing. We lacked creativity, which we have seen in the recent weeks, and BATE had 8 or 9 men behind the ball. I mean, that could make things tricky for any teams, and especially the one who's lacking chance creation in recent weeks. What were your observation from the game?
Well, I agree with you that they were indeed playing with 8 or 9 men behind the ball.
Mm.
But apart from that, I guess what helped them is their home pitch. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Belarus is in Eastern Europe, if I am right.
Mm.
So it's pretty much a harsh winter condition there.
Yep.
So the pitch was such that big teams like Arsenal and take any other team, they are not used to playing there.
Definitely.
Yes, Arsenal missed a lot of chances.
One of the major thing was they were not able to create chances, and that has been the case in recent week as well. The chance creation for Arsenal have been amazingly, extremely low this season.
Yes, I mean, Lacazette was visibly frustrated, no doubt about that.
That's why he got
And
the red
it
card.
led to he got a red card. I guess it was a straight red card, right?
Yes, it was a red card offense. He elbowed the
Yeah,
player
it
in the
was
face.
a red, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
It was a red card, but I guess he might get a couple of matches banned, right?
Yeah, probably for a straight red, he will get banned for the next game, and if we qualify, which we definitely would, he would be out for the first leg of the last 16.
Yes, I mean, Aubameyang was ill, so Lacazette had the opportunity to take the initiative.
Yes, definitely. But it doesn't help when your two main strikers, your two prominent strikers are playing on the wing. I mean, at the end of the match, I couldn't even recognize what formation we were playing in. What was it? Is it because he was trying to create chances, or what was the reasoning behind it? I couldn't figure out.
I mean, I think he's like too much experimenting when it comes to the position of the players. Like Aubameyang, if you play him at left wing, for example, that's understandable because initially he was a left winger only when he arrived at Dortmund. Like Denis Suarez, I guess he is usually a right mid or left mid player. So you can play him max to max at the position of a winger.
Definitely.
But playing him at the wing back doesn't make sense. Like for example, we don't have a superstar-studded team like PSG where you can tinker at whatever you want and they can give you the result.
Definitely.
So
How can I sum it up? It was really, really poor performance for Arsenal, and we were talking about chance creation and how we are lacking in that department. And if we compare our this season to previous seasons, we have drastically decreased the chance creation, which begs the question, put aside whatever the issue there might be behind the scenes, wouldn't Ozil help the team during this period?
well, the way they played, I don't think even Ozil would have influenced the game that much. But like on at least I don't know, like he did underperformed in the big games in the last couple of seasons. If you would have obviously seen that.
Yes, if I remember correctly, he only played well in one match. That was again Leicester. Everyone on the Arsenal Twitter, when they have debate about Ozil, they always go back to that Leicester performance. But even though he's an amazingly talented player, he's one of my favorite players. But since he has signed that £350,000 per week contract, he hasn't been performing. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I do agree. I mean, of course, he was different at Real Madrid, consistently performing. At Arsenal, like he did struggle, especially. Yes,
He did struggle, and maybe it is because of the style of play in the Premier League. It is more physical. Because initially we were thinking, okay, maybe if when Giroud was up front and Ozil was behind him playing as the attacking mid, we were thinking, okay, if he had a better finisher, so he would have performed better. But he now have two potent strikers in front of him, even last season, but he was too inconsistent.
But yes, I mean, Arsenal actually lack creatively. I mean, I said this, I don't know, 100 of times maybe in the second podcast, but they do need a creative player. And I don't know if they are planning to sell Ozil in the summer, like they should go with it, but at least somehow Emery should integrate him into the team, at least in the remaining part of the season.
So let me give some background to the people who don't know the scenario going on with Ozil. So the ongoing issue surrounding Ozil is that he's on £350,000 per week deal on Arsenal. This is one of the biggest wages in the world football, just below stars like Neymar, Cristiano Ronaldo, and Lionel Messi. Even though Ozil is an amazingly skilled player, This is nowhere the level of wages he could have gotten if Arsenal hadn't been in the giant chunky mess of a situation where one of their biggest star left for United in a swap deal and the other star, meaning Ozil, got a giant wage pack from Arsenal because otherwise he would have left for free. Now, I can't help but notice this recent article from Ars blog, and I'm sure the 9 people who listened to our last podcast already know about him. So, Ars blog was told by a reliable source that it was the old regime, meaning Gazidis and Dick Law, and yes, he was a dick. They were the one who offered Ozil those wages and not Hus Fahmy. So, a little background on Hus Fahmy now. Hus Fahmy has recently joined us from Sky as our chief contract negotiator and legal expert. Now, I'm talking about this because it has some relevancy here. In a podcast from Ars blog featuring David Ornstein of BBC Sports, and I don't have to tell you about Ornstein because if Ornstein is saying something, it means it's coming straight from the horse's mouth. Okay, so Ornstein and Andrew made some interesting point regarding Ozil, Emery and the hierarchy towards the end of the show. Ornstein was suggesting that the new hierarchy feels the need to let Ozil go more than the coach and they are expressing their feelings through Unai. And no doubt the feeling of our head coach is mutual, but you cannot help but notice that under Gazidis' reign, Emery had no problem using Messi in the squad. But as of Gazidis has left and Raul Sanllehi have gained power, we have seen some radical decision made behind the scenes, such as Ramsey's contract being withdrawn or the Ozil situation, which got intensified. You can't help but notice that there's something bigger in the play behind the scenes going on right now. And we would only know if Ozil comes out with his book. It has
some years to come.
Yeah, mostly he will do it after he retires. I feel that would be the scenario. So yes, we have to move on. Let's not dwell into Ozil and this situation. And we have 2 matches to preview this week. First up is the second leg of the BATE match at home, and then we face Southampton at home on Sunday. So what would be your strategies going into these games?
Well, they have to field a strong team, obviously. No doubt about that. They have to press hard, they have to attack, and they have to capitalize whenever they get the chances. And they will get a lot of chances because, with all due respect, it is BATE Borisov they're playing against.
Yep.
Even if we are seeing recently that the number of chances they are creating have dropped, if I take that thing, they should make sure that they at least win by 2-goal margin. Because even if they win by 2-1, hypothetically they will lose.
Yeah, because of the...
They have to win either by 2-0 or 3-1 at least, but they have to win by a 2-goal margin.
And I would say we have to win by 3-1 because I don't expect us to keep a clean sheet. That is stuff made of dreams, bro.
Yes. You will be damned if Arsenal will get a clean sheet.
It's been so long since we have kept a clean sheet. So
yes.
For me, these 2 matches, I can't see any option other than going with a full strength team as well. In both of these matches, I'm talking about here. I can't see BATE beating us over 2 legs to reach the last 16. And if I remember correctly, Ostersunds beat us in one of the leg of the last 32 last season, but we still went on till these. Yeah, and we went on till the semis. And if we compare our season to our previous one, we are actually in a better position. We are 1 point below the top 4. We are still favorites to go into the next round of the Europa League, the most elite UEFA contest in Europe. Just kidding. Don't at me for that.
Yes. And yes, I would like to add about Southampton.
Yeah.
Again, Southampton, they have to be at their best.
Yes, the moral can go down for the Arsenal player. The first goal would be decider in both of these matches, I feel that. And we were talking about the most elite UEFA contest in Europe. That was sarcasm, but But in previous seasons, we were out of the top 4 race by now and were focusing on how to turn a 3-0 deficit in an away game to Bayern or Barca. So I would like to quote Gattuso here.
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
So like that, it's not so good, but it's not so bad either. All right, let's end this show on this remark. It has been a pleasure hosting today's show with Prateek.
Even though I was mysteriously somehow sent back to Himalayas. I mean, even I don't know whether I was there or not. Maybe I was stoned something. I don't remember.
Probably. Maybe it was the result that resulted in you going to Himalaya without even your knowledge.
I mean, maybe I was still in the Wembley aftershock.
Yeah, probably. So, yes. And that's Prateek. You can find him on Twitter at BVB_Pats. That's BVB_PATZ. And if you want to engage with me regarding Arsenal or maybe contemplate life, you can find me on Twitter at 022Wenger. Now, some information regarding our show. So up until now, we were only available on SoundCloud and YouTube. And now we are also available on Apple's podcast app and Spotify and Google podcast app and all your favorite podcast app directories. To subscribe to our podcast there, you can go to the search bar in the app and search Joy Eats Football and click the plus sign or the subscribe button. Or if you're listening to our show on YouTube or SoundCloud, you can find the URL of both Apple Podcast and Spotify's link in the info or description box. They will redirect you to their respective apps and you can subscribe to us from there.
And like I said it in the last podcast, I would say it again. We have just started as a hobby. So if any suggestions you see we need to improve upon, you are welcome.
Yeah. And I would also like to add that we extremely appreciate everyone who is listening to our podcast. I can't explain what it means to us. Thank you so much. All right, that's all for today's show. Bye till next Tuesday and up the Arsenal.